Rural Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine featuring articles about farming and logging with draft animal power, small-scale diversified family farming and homesteading, and other aspects of our rich rural heritage. Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com.
On Pat's front feet, we used a 1/2-inch shoe that has a toe clip. And a clip is used to stabilize the shoe on the hoof. It's used to take stress off of the horseshoe nails. When a horse is going in a straight line, as a heavy horse does most of the time, all the stress is from forward to back, especially if you have a traction device on. So it's important to have a clip, especially if you have a pad on, because there's more room for that shoe to shift around. So it takes stress off of the horseshoe nails, helps hold that shoe in place. On his hind feet, I used a shoe with a little more traction. The crease is longer. In fact, I elongated it on the outside branch to give him even some more support back there. But I used a shoe with quarter clips. And I use that because he has a tendency to land hard on the outside because of his base narrow stance. So he has a tendency to shift the shoe towards the inside. Plus the hind feet, they tend to twist and turn a little bit more as they're going around corners, and that further helps to stabilize the shoe on the hoof. If the clip is between the first and second nail hole, it's called a quarter clip. If it's between the second and third or further back, it's called a side clip. They're used to help stabilize the shoe on the horse's hoof wall, and also if a horse has a hoof wall that's been busted up or broken away, this will help hold that shoe on so that you can use less nails in that area. All horseshoe nails have a trademark on the head, and that trademark goes towards the inside of the foot or towards the frog. The other end is tapered, and that pulls the nail out of the hoof wall as you drive it in. The head shape is very important. This is an E-head nail. An E-head nail is meant to fit a square hole. And in these 1/2-inch shoes, that's a square hole. This nail fits tightly, and it's so important that that nail fits tightly in that nail hole so that it doesn't wobble, it stays in there, it's tight around the nail. If they aren't tight, the shoe is immediately loose. The nail has to be made for that shoe, or vice versa. This 3/8-inch Kirkhart, you can see that the nail holes are more rectangular. And that shoe is punched for a traditional American nail or a city head nail, which is more rectangular. So that fits tightly in there and tightly in there. It's so important to have the appropriate nail that fits down in that nail hole. This Century shoe that I used on the back, you can see that those are a square nail too, and you want to make sure that that fits down, you have the appropriate nail. Another thing is your tongs. You need to have tongs that are appropriate for the material you're using. On your tongs, it'll be stamped as to the size of the stock that it's made for. If you take a tong that's not appropriate, you're not going to have grip. 3/8 shoe, get a 3/8-inch tong. Bury that shoe into the tong so you have leverage there. Keep your hand above the anvil face when you're working on a hot shoe so that that hot slag doesn't flip down and burn your arms. Another thing is keep your elbow in when you're working that. If your elbows are way out here, you have no stability. So appropriate tongs for the thickness of the shoe, appropriate nails for the shape of the horseshoe nail holes. I have hot set tongs here that on smaller shoes, this end works really well at holding them. On the larger shoes, they're modified there so that I can grab in the nail hole and go to the hoof to hold on to that. I also have punches from Bloom Forge, and this one is a square head. I can punch a new nail hole if I need to, along with the Perchron. And I have a creaser, and on his hind shoe, I elongated that crease, gave it extra width on the outside with this Bloom Forge creaser. I also have a shoeing box made by Bay Horse in Cynthiana, Kentucky, and that's just a handy way to keep my tools so that they are at a level that I can reach easily, and I know where everything is. So when I reach in there, I can grab the appropriate tool for the job that I'm going to do. My knives are up there so I can grab them. These are on magnets. I can reach in and get my nails here. Everything's in a place where I can get to it. Works out great if I'm on a flat floor, because I have rollers, I can roll it around the horse. It's necessary to take that box out of the way when you go back to the anvil so the horse doesn't step into it and get spooked or injured. The appropriate hammer is also important. When I'm working on the outside of the shoe, I'm going to use the flat side and go around there. If I'm working on the inside of the shoe, I'm going to use the round side. If I'm using another tool, say a creaser, then I'm going to use the round side of the hammer to hammer on another tool, whether it be a creaser or a Perchron or some other punch. Your anvil needs to be sufficient. This anvil has a really wide horn, a big horn, so that when I want to shape, I can create space in there to get more roundness on that shoe, or I can bring it out here to close that shoe in. It also has a big, large, flat face so that when I'm leveling the shoe, I have space to work on it. An anvil that's too narrow, it becomes very difficult to work on your draft horse shoes. Get the appropriate anvil. Another thing is that this is a 200-pound anvil, which is a great shop anvil, but not very practical for driving around with. But if you're working on these big half-inch shoes, an appropriate weight for your anvil is also very important. I suggest 150 pounds or more for working on the draft horse shoes. A vise is a great idea because we can get that shoe in there, and whether you use a rasp or a grinder, it's a good way to hold it solid in there so it doesn't go anywhere on you. Appropriate safety wear, eyeglasses, because the slag, pieces of metal bounce all over. Get some safety glasses and wear them when you're doing your forge work. This is a hoof pick I put on a little block brush. I just put that on there. I made that so that I can pick the hoof out and then I can brush it also, brush it off. I carry two knives, and I'm right-handed, so when I'm using that knife, I put it in my palm like this. I'm always keeping the other hand behind that knife. This fits nicely into my hand. I have a place for my thumb. It also has a hoof pick on there. I can dig out those nails. It's important to have a sharp hoof knife, and in order to keep that hoof knife sharp, have that pick there to pick out the pebbles and stones that are going to dull your knife. A loop knife is also a handy tool, especially for the frog, and I use that exclusively on the frog to clean out the collateral sulcus and the central sulcus. When I buy a rasp, it has 3 lives. When it's brand new, I have a clean handle on there. I use it just on hoof. That's all that rasp does. I use it on the hoof. No steel. After I've used it on 25 or so horses, it's dulled up a little bit. Then it goes to a second life. has a dark handle, and that is for clinching, because that's rasping on shoe, it's rasping on metal. So that's its second life. Then in its third life, it goes to my anvil stand. And here, we totally abuse it by rasping on hot metal, and by the time it's finished with this process of being a hot rasp, then it's time to make something ornamental out of it or recycle it. I also have a huge butcher brush, so when I'm working on a shoe and with the gas forge you're going to get slag, I can brush that slag off. This is also handy if I have a used shoe and that used shoe is filled with debris. I can clean that shoe up before going and resetting. And the shoe certainly has enough life into it so I can reset it again next season when I need the traction device.
Perchron draft shoes, strong and reliable. Anytime your horses are working in rough terrain, the Perchron Draft Series is your most likely choice of horseshoes. With the strength to hold up and protect the hoof, the most demanding of environments won't overwork these shoes. To view the full line of Perchron horseshoes and to find a Farrier Products dealer near you, visit www.farrierproducts.com.
Square. Thank you. When I'm pulling that hind limb back, I'm going to let him relax there. Then I'm going to pick it up slowly and just rest it right here. My armpit is over his hock, so I'm basically sitting down. It takes a while to build up your limbs to be able to do this. This is an 8 hind, which is quite large on him. This is a Century big hoof. I'm going to use this on. This is a 7. We'll clean up these heels just like the fronts. But with this crease, or fuller all the way around there, it's going to give him subtle traction. We no longer have the snow in the mud, and this will allow him some traction. The back end is the engine, so we need a little more traction behind than we have out front, and I'll do it with this Perchron Century shoe. You ready for this big guy? Ready? Ready? I'll adjust the hind shoe. The hind shoe, I have quarter clips. There's one on each side. I'll put those at the angle of the hoof wall, the angle of the hoof wall. I noted that on the inside branch, toe quarter, I needed to straighten that out. The point that I want to come out will become my horn point. The radius that I want at that point will be where I put it on the horn. So I want that tight of a bend. I'll hit beyond. Straighten that branch out. Same on the outside corner. Tighten up that radius, hit beyond. Knock down the inside with the web. I'm going to put some more heat on the heels and adjust them. He is space narrow on the hind foot, especially on his left hind, so I'm going to increase the width of web on this heel just by increasing the length of that crease. Using a creasing tool, I'm walking that crease back to the end of the shoe. And then because he travels so close and brushes the inside of the contralateral limb, his right hind, when I shape the shoe, I want to make sure that the inside branches fit tight. So I'll round that up tight, and everything needs to be rounded off and smooth in case he is to interfere. We'll make it flat. I'll take it to the hoof and test it for shape.
So you're very quickly running your finger over it to feel where the shoe is in terms of a seam with the hoof.
When I run my finger over it, I'm seeing how much shoe is hanging over. Make it flat, make the adjustments, go back to the hoof and check it again. All right. So I noted that there's too much shoe over the collateral sulcus here. I'll have to clean that up some, and I can do that with the rasp. And again, I'm just going to work the collateral sulcus here with the rasp. And we'll get the other side. Again, I've created curvature to that by filing on it. I want to pull that heel up. I'm going to use the round side of the hammer, gently hit down just before that. Check it this way. Check it this way for flatness. I also need to rasp a little on this toe. And we'll check that shoe one more time. I'm going to nail this hind shoe on. I'm going to pull that foot forward, put it on the stand. Come on, big guy. I'm going to put my shoe up underneath in the position that I had defined earlier. Any adjustments I need to make them right now. And I can see I need to bevel a little bit on the inside here. It's a lot easier to do it now than wait until the shoe comes off. I just went around there one more time because I don't want that shoe resting on the sole. That could put enough pressure on and make the horse sore. Make sure that shoe fits. I got the horse in the natural range of motion. I got my knees bent. I got the horse's hock in my armpit. Put the nail in at the same angle as the hoof wall. Started. Remember that the trademark is towards the inside. Put the nail in. Once that nail bottoms out, that's far enough. You'll notice the horses start to react if you keep hitting on that nail right there. That's far enough. You don't need to hit it anymore. At that point, it becomes painful for the horse. I put 2 nails in. I'll set it down. I'll check it to make sure everything's right. And if it's not the way you want it, take it off, make the adjustments, put it back on. If we put the trademark to the inside, every nail has a trademark. If you look at the other end of the nail, it's tapered. You see the taper on there. So that when this is towards the inside, that taper will pull that nail out of the hoof wall. So I start it, I put my finger where I want the nail to come out, I aim for that finger, drive the nail in, it's starting to get harder, move my fingers, finish driving it, and my goal is to have a uniform line around the hoof wall as to where the nails exit. Just because a manufactured shoe has a certain amount of nails in it doesn't mean you have to fill every nail hole. If there's an area of compromised hoof wall, by all means leave it out. So my goal is to have a uniform line around there. I could also be using the hoof jack at this point to drive the nails. Bottomed out, stop. Nail bottoms out, stop. Trademark to the inside. Set pitch at the same angle as the hoof wall. I wring the nails off, and using the urethane hammer, I'll set those clinches that starts the bend of that clinch. All right, and then we'll set them down. Bend those nails out 90 degrees from the hoof wall. Take a clinching rasp, make them all the same length. They're about 1/8 of an inch. And fold them down and in. And smooth everything up. I don't want to thin those clinches out, but I don't want any sharp edges that are going to catch the horse or one of his buddies.
This program is available for purchase. To order your copy, please call 319-362-3027 or visit www.ruralheritage.com. Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of Back to the Land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website at www.ruralheritage.com.